Miss Chris. I know it's been a long time since you've heard my voice. You're about to get into some pretty complicated material, so I thought that I would help out a little bit and explain some of these things. It might make it a little bit clearer because it is crazy stuff. Couple of things. I hear that some of you guys are working hard. That's awesome. I hear that some of you guys are maybe not working as hard. That is not awesome. Remember those expectations that I said at the beginning of the year? Those are still expectations. And I know you guys are awesome, and hopefully you'll do it, and you'll be nice and respectful and learn. I know it's kind of an interesting situation, but we're gonna work through it, and you guys are gonna be just fine. Okay. All right. And also, don't worry about your term grades. Really, you guys got pretty much all of your grades done with me while I was there. All right. So if you're freaking out about stuff, don't worry about it. I have a lot of papers to grade. The grades in the grade book are by no means final. I know you had a cell test yesterday. Um, you're going to be fine. Okay. Like I said, the majority of the grades were done when you guys were with me. Okay. Unless you just didn't do anything last week. Then, if you didn't do anything, obviously that's going to bring your grade down. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about photosynthesis part two. You guys got introduced to it last week. I believe it was Thursday of last week. Okay. So let's kind of review the whole function of photosynthesis. What are we doing? And by the way, this is one of my most favorite things ever. I love me some plants, and photosynthesis is just awesome. All right, so the whole point of photosynthesis is basically to make food for producers. Now, the whole food thing is something that you guys kind of said when you were in middle school, so we're going to jump it up to glucose, okay? So the whole point of photosynthesis is to make glucose. Now that formula for glucose is right down here, C6H12O6. Make sure that you write that down in your notes because you are responsible for knowing that. That is one of the biggest carbohydrates that we're going to talk about that you guys are actually going to learn about in biology, okay? So I like this. It's a food factory, okay? That's what your plants or producers are going to do, all right? So how is it done? And these two slides should look very familiar to you guys because these were in the PowerPoint that you guys did on Thursday. So how do they do this? They're going to absorb several things, okay? They're going to take in sunlight energy, all right? They're going to take in carbon dioxide and water, okay? And they're going to make glucose, all right? So sunlight energy, carbon dioxide, and water makes glucose. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how that happens. All right, now this picture is kind of creepy a little bit, but basically you can kind of see how all three of these things come in the pot to make the food. And like I said, we're going to talk about how that happens today. Okay. All right. So you guys have this little question in your notes right there. This is just kind of a little probe thing to get you guys thinking. So let's kind of read through it together. The giant sequoia tree is one of the largest trees on Earth. It starts as a small seedling and grows into an enormous tree. 5 children can stretch their arms around the width of one of the larger sequoia trees. And actually, guys, there's some that are even bigger than that. There's some redwoods that are out in California that they've actually cut tunnels through it. Cars can drive through these trees. That's how massive they are. Okay, so the question is where did most of the matter that makes up the wood and the leaves of this huge tree originally come from? Okay, so we know that matter means basically the stuff that makes up wood. Whenever you see a tree, you touch the tree, see the wood, and hold a leaf. Where did that originally come from that makes those things up? Okay, so you have lots of options here. Okay, what I want you guys to do is you can circle one, you can circle more than one. All right, as far as what you think that matter originally came from. Where did the wood and the leaves come from? And I want you guys to explain why. Why did you pick these things? Okay, and I know a lot of you guys are like, well, I don't know. Well, you circled it for some reason, okay? So, Miss Hartsock, if you don't mind, hit pause and hit pause. Sorry, I get a little distracted here. Hit pause and give the kids a little bit of time to work on this. And we're gonna, woo, I'm all over the place. Sorry, guys. Pick the ones that you like, explain, Hartzog, hit pause, and then if you could, get some of them to share some of their answers if you don't mind. Okay? Sorry about that, guys. Okay, go. All right. So, what I've seen kids do in the past is that oftentimes they circle all of them. Okay. I don't know if any of you guys did that one. Probably another one of the common ones that I see kids circle sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, which is good because those are going to be the reactants for photosynthesis. I wish I could have heard your answers, but I'm sure that you guys hopefully had a pretty good discussion. Now, a lot of you guys want me to give the answer right now, and I'm going to be a ginormous turd, and I'm not, because I want to give you the notes on this, and then we're going to revisit this question to see if you got it correct. Okay? All right, so where are we? You guys notice I do this all the time just because I feel like I've learned in my teaching that I feel like you guys are with me. You're right where we need to be, and oftentimes students are not. So I just have this little short little zoom in thing here that hopefully will work. Oh, nice. Excuse me, kids. That's not what it looks like. Let's go to here. Okay. All right, so where are we? Photosynthesis is going to take place in the leaves, okay? Very important thing to remember. That's where it's all going to take place, all right? It's not taking place in the wood. It's not taking place in the roots. It's in the leaves, okay? So if we were to do a cross-section of the leaves, this is what it actually looks like, okay? Kind of cool stuff. All right, so we're going to zoom in a little bit more. If you notice, these are our plant cells that you guys just took a test on yesterday. Okay, those little green discs floating around. Hopefully you guys are saying in your head, Miss Chris, those are chloroplasts, okay? So here's our cell. There's our little nucleus, the vacuole, and basically all of those chloroplasts. We're going to zoom into that chloroplast right there, okay? And we're going to chop it in half so you can see inside. I think I've already had you guys diagram a chloroplast 2 or 3 times, okay? And this is what it looks like, and you're going to see a lot more terms up there than what you guys learned. But that fluid inside of there, that's actually going to be the stroma, okay? The stack of these green things, we're going to call that grana, and one individual little pancake, okay, that you see right there, one individual thing, that's going to be a thylakoid. Now, the thylakoids have the pigments, all right? And you guys did a chromatography lab with that one where you separated the pigments from spinach. And it's actually going to be those pigments that are going to absorb the sunlight energy. Well, think about it. When you go outside on a sunny day and let's say you have a black shirt on, you get hot, right? That black gets really, really, really hot. And that's because it's absorbing every single one of those wavelengths, okay, of sunlight. What's cool is plants have tons of pigments, tons and tons and tons of them. And the reason why they have so many is that basically it allows them to absorb as much sun as they possibly can, okay? Kind of cool stuff. Well, we're going to revisit this one again because I'm going to show you some crazy stuff that's going to be happening once we finish talking, okay? All right, so you guys know I got to review the equation right here, okay, the summative equation. Let's see if anybody can write this down from memory, okay? So Ms. Hartstock, again, if you can hit pause, let's see if anybody can try their hardest to write down this equation from memory because you know what? You're going to have to do it sometime really soon. So Hartstock, pause, please. All right. So what we have here is the reactants are what we're going to start off with. Reactants are what we need. We have to have for photosynthesis to take place, okay? Products are what we're going to make, all right? This is kind of what I always think. So what do we need for photosynthesis? We have to have carbon dioxide. Now you guys need to know not only the formula, CO2, you also need to know carbon dioxide, okay? The other thing plants need is they have to have water, which is H2O. Now there's one more thing, and if I could, I would put it up here, but actually I put it on this arrow. A lot of kids forget about this one because it's on the arrow. Please don't forget sunlight energy. If we didn't have sunlight energy, photo means light, photo and synthesis means to make. If we didn't have sunlight energy, photosynthesis would not take place, okay? So these are the 3 reactants that you have to have. Go back to that little flower cooking up that stuff in a pot, okay? These are the 3 things. So what do we make? Okay, we're going to make glucose, which is C6H12O6. Okay, that's the main point of photosynthesis, the whole main idea. And you guys are going to learn they're going to make oxygen, which is very important for us as well. Okay, we are alive because we are breathing the oxygen that these guys produce. Okay, which is a really pretty cool relationship that we have with them. Okay, again, formula, you're going to write it down 80,000 quadrillion bajillion times. Okay, all right, so let's move on to the light-dependent reaction. Now, where you see the light-dependent reaction in your notes, why don't you guys put a big number 1 beside that? So beside light-dependent, put a number 1, all right, because photosynthesis is broken down into 2 main reactions. So the first one is the light-dependent, okay? Now, location, where is it taking place? The location of this one is going to be specifically in the thylakoid. So just by location, just simply put down thylakoid, okay? That's it. How you can kind of think about this, and again, I encourage you guys to think through this, is if you notice I say light dependent, okay? where are pigments found, right? They're going to be in the thylakoid. So obviously it kind of makes sense that it'll be taking place inside of here. Okay? All right, so what you guys have there is you have a picture of the tree in your notes, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to draw some stuff up here, and then underneath it you should have 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. We're going to write down what's happening, okay? All right, so what I want you guys to do is to draw, first and foremost, is draw a sun. I don't care where you draw it, somewhere near your tree, and put an arrow going in, all right? So draw the sun and an arrow going in. And what is this showing here? Sun, arrow going into a tree. How about for number 1? And if you guys want to also, if you want to get fancy, you can put a number 1 right here by this arrow, okay? What this is showing you right here, and write this under number 1 underneath your tree, is that the pigments absorb the sunlight energy, okay? Now I'm showing you this on a tree scale. If we were to really do this, I would have a chloroplast in front of you, but I've learned that it's hard for students to kind of visualize. If you get the whole big picture of the tree or the plant or the producer, it makes it a little bit easier. All right, so the pigments are going to absorb that sunlight energy, right? Remember, light is going to be a reactant for this, okay? All right, let's go to number 2, okay? So number 2 is going to look kind of weird, all right? What I want you guys to do, and I'm going to go back, okay? Go back, and if I was there, it'd be a little bit easier, okay? Don't draw it yet. Resist the urge to draw. Just look. Water going in, and then I got this. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, what looks like is happening? How did I get from this to this? Okay, so what's happening with this, and again, I'm doing this in a very simplified kind of a weird way, all right? I don't want you guys to overthink it, kind of look at the simplicity of it, okay? So what's going to happen with number 2, and you guys can put a number 2 right here, go ahead and draw it, okay? So you got the water in, and then the HOH, okay? Put a number 2, all right? What's happening here is that basically the plants are going to absorb the water, which is what you see right here with this motion. Plants are taking in water, which is another reactant. Once they take in that water, what they actually do is that they destroy it. They break it apart, okay? Some of that water is going to go into vacuoles, and they're going to store it for a not so rainy day, I guess I should say, all right? But also they are going to break that apart. Now I'm showing the absorption of 1 water molecule. If you guys look at the fish tank in the front of the classroom, there are insane amount of water molecules inside of there. I can't even guess a number. Quadrillion, bajillion times 50 quadrillion, okay? There's tons of them. So I am just simply showing you 1 water molecule. Imagine this is happening constantly, okay? So once they absorb that water, they're actually breaking it down into the H's and the O's. Here we got 2 H's, pow, pow, and 1 O, 1 oxygen, okay, in water. So this is what we got, okay? Keep in mind, again, some of this is going to be stored away in that vacuole as well, okay? So we have number 1, sunlight energy is being absorbed, and water is being broken down into H's and O's. And actually, the sunlight energy is not only being absorbed by the pigments, but it helps break down that water. It's a process called photolysis, okay? All right, last but not least, what we got here is... Oh, hey, I did it again. So if you guys could put a number 2 right here, okay? I'm showing you that I broke down 2 of them. Put a number 2 in front of that H2O, showing that 2 of those went in there. And add another O and 2 H's. And I don't care where they are in your tree. You can just put them all throughout, okay? So put another O and 2 H's, throw it in there, okay? So we had a 2 right there. And then add another O and H's. And again, like I said, there are bajillions gushing in there constantly in all the cells, okay? And they got bajillions of cells. This is like a massive production here. All right, let's talk about number 3, okay? So what's happening with number 3, and you guys just look what's happening in this little diagram here, okay? Bloop. Oh, I cheat right there. Bloop, okay? So what's going to happen here next is that these 2 oxygens are going to come together, and they're going to leave as O2, okay? So don't erase the O's in your tree. What I want you guys to do is just draw a line coming out, put a 3 right here, okay? Put a 3 right there, and put O2, all right? And then underneath, basically, the oxygens combine, okay, from water and leave as oxygen gas. And it's actually this stuff that we breathe, okay? So again, sunlight energy is absorbed, water is absorbed and broken down, oxygens are going to combine and leave as oxygen gas, okay? And this is the light-dependent reaction in a nutshell. Very, 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 very simple. All right. So we're going to kind of relate this to our equation here in a second, okay, that summative equation. All right, what's happening this that relates to that? Okay, so oxygens combine and leave as oxygen gas. All right, and what I want you to do is just, you could draw a little stick figure right there. You don't have to draw this dude jamming out, all right? But basically, we breathe that oxygen, and this is one of the many reasons how we depend on producers, okay? So inhaling that oxygen. All right, pretty cool stuff, okay? All right, so with that said and done, okay, let's talk about reactants and products of the light dependent, okay? So reactants for just this one, don't think about the summative equation. What do I have to have for the light dependent reaction? And kind of the hint that I give you guys is look at the arrows going in. What do I have to have? What are the necessary things? So if you look at the arrows going in, one thing that we have to have is the sun. Okay, so for reactants, why don't you guys put down sunlight energy is going to be one of them. You have to have that for the light dependent reaction. Okay, the other thing that we have to have for this reaction is actually going to be water. Okay, if we didn't have water, we couldn't get basically these O's inside of there, and these H's are going to come into play a little bit later on. They are just floating around. Sounds weird, but they are. Okay, but those O's come together to make this. Okay. All right, so that's my reactants. Now, if we were to look at the products for this reaction, what you look at is you look at arrows going out, okay? What do they make in the light-dependent reaction? We only have one arrow going out, and the one thing that we make right here is going to be oxygen, okay? No glucose was made yet, so we got to get to that one, that whole thing next, all right? So hopefully, again, sunlight energy, water's absorbed, water's broken down and stored, but broken down. Oxygens leave as oxygen gas. That is the light-dependent reaction. Okay? All right, so Ms. Hartsock, if you could hit pause, give them about a 2-minute stretch break. All right? Stretch, 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 and then we're going to move on to the Calvin cycle. All right? Pause. All right. So let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about the Calvin cycle. In your notes where you have Calvin cycle, let's put a number 2 beside that one. Number 2 by the Calvin cycle. Okay? And this is the second reaction. Okay? All right, where is it going to take place? All right, this one's going to take place in the stroma. Okay? So under location, let's just simply say stroma. That is the fluid inside of the chloroplast. Okay, that's where the Calvin cycle takes place. And again, note, this is on the cells. All these cells make up the leaves. Okay, so just kind of like zoom, 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 zoom. Okay, all right, let's talk about what's happening here. This one's a little bit weirder. Okay, all right, so you have another tree there. What I'd like for you guys to do is draw a little stick figure boy hanging out. Okay, little stick figure man. All right. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show this right here. All right. Show that right there. And you guys can actually put a number 1 on this arrow if you would like. Okay. So if we were to look at this and I were to ask for a volunteer to tell me what's happening, I'm sure that you guys would say, well, Miss Chris, it looks like he is exhaling carbon dioxide. So let's just simply say for number 1 that carbon dioxide is released by consumers and producers. This is a huge misconception. A lot of people think that plants don't produce carbon dioxide, but they actually do, and that is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. So carbon dioxide is released by consumers, which are us, okay, and producers. My turtles are a consumer. My fish are consumers, okay? All the plants in there are producers, okay? All right, so that's number 1. All right, so what's going to happen next, all right, is I want you guys just to watch what's happening, okay? All right, let me go back. Don't draw it yet. Just look, please. Bloop, bloop, bloop. One more time. Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay, what's going on there? Okay, and again, I wish I could get a volunteer for that, all right? But because you guys are so smart, I know you have the answers in your head. Basically, what is happening here, and we're going to draw at the very end, okay? So just quit drawing and we're just going to write, all right? So for number 2, what happened there is that the producers are going to absorb that carbon dioxide. They're going to take that in, okay? And that was actually shown right here, taking it in, okay? What they do is they break that carbon off and they store it, You can think of that it's being stored with those hydrogens as well, okay? And they release oxygen, all right? So producers absorb carbon dioxide, break off the carbon, and release oxygen, okay? We're not going to draw just yet. We're just writing. I'll give you guys time to draw. So as producers absorb carbon dioxide, break off the carbon, and release oxygen, okay? Fairly simple. So absorb the CO2, break off the carbon, and release oxygen. That is number 2, okay? All right, let's hop to number 3, okay? Number 3 here is the process is going to continue until 6 carbons are collected. So let's write this down for number 3. The process is going to continue until we have 6 carbons that are actually going to be collected. All right? Process continues until 6 carbons are collected. That's going to be number 3. All right? Now, we're about to get crazy up in this tree, okay? So hopefully we have that down, okay? And let's watch what happens, okay? You ready? Don't draw yet. Put your pencils down. How about that? Pens and pencils down and just watch the craziness, okay? So here we go. We already have one carbon stored in there. There's a CO2. Drops off that C. Has that oxygen. Peace out. What up, carbon dioxide? Here you go, tree. Take a carbon. Peace out, oxygen. Yo, yo, carbon dioxide. Here you go, carbon. Peace out. I got 4 in there. What up, carbon dioxide? Peace out. One more. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so that's number 3. All these this is taking place in the cells, okay? Sound good? All right, the craziness is going to happen with number 4, all right? Number 4, probably the most that you're going to have to write all day today, is that all these 6 carbons that we have stored inside of our cells right there, all those guys right there, and actually some stored energy from the sun. That sun is shoo, 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 shooting in there, basically being absorbed by those pigments and being stored. Okay, some hydrogens from that hydrogens from the water that's being absorbed, and some oxygen that was stored in there as well. Okay, are all going to come together to make glucose. Okay, they're all going to come together to make glucose. All right, which is kind of a cool thing. So those carbons, some energy from the sun, hydrogen and oxygen are going to form together to make this glucose. And guys, what is so freaking cool about this, it gets me so excited, is that you got to think that in these leaves, God, just in one leaf, there's got to be 1 trillion of cells. Inside one of those cells, there's got to be like 20 to 50 to maybe 100 chloroplasts. And this is all taking place in those chloroplasts. Do you not understand how awesome this is? Come on, people. It's so cool. I love it. All right. It's so cool. Okay. Move on, Miss Chris. Shut up. Nobody cares. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is you guys are going to freak out by this next slide, but pow. Okay. Anytime I put that up there, my kids are like, oh my God. All right. So this is actually what I want you guys to draw in your tree if you could. Okay. Basically, what I'm having you show me is 6 CO2s coming in. Okay. We have 6 carbons being stored in there and 6 O2s leaving. All right. Please also make sure that you put this glucose right here. All right. Now, what's so cool about this carbon, you guys, is that when we make this glucose, if you guys notice, I have it hanging out here in the trunk. This glucose is actually going to be what makes up the wood. It's going to be what makes up the leaves. It's going to be what makes up the branches. It's going to be what makes up all the matter of that tree. The glucose is. And if you think about it, where did that ultimately come from, that glucose? It actually came from carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is the main boss of it all to drop off these carbons to make up the glucose that makes up the matter of the tree. Notice that I'm talking slowly as you are drawing, okay? So carbon dioxide is the Mac Daddy of photosynthesis, okay? Who knew that it could be so beneficial? And actually, we depend on it in several different ways, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, okay? All right, everybody got this crazy picture drawn? Okay, 6 CO2s coming in. Please make sure that you draw it because I'm going to make you do it again. All right, 6 carbons inside, 6O2 is leaving. Please don't forget your glucose down here. That's the most important part of photosynthesis. That's the whole point of photosynthesis, is to make this right here. Okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit, okay? If you notice, 6 is a very structured number. So the question here is why 6? Why are 6 carbon dioxide molecules absorbed? Why? Why? Okay, so why is 6 the magic number? Who cares? Why can't it be 7? Why can't it be 8? I kind of like the number 13. That's my favorite number. Why not 13? Can anybody think in your head, why 6? Why 6? Why 6? Why? Okay. The answer to that is because we have to have 6 carbons to make glucose. All right. So I want you guys to put down that we need 6 carbons from carbon dioxide to make, you can write this out, but please make sure that you also write down glucose. Okay. We have to have 6. All right. If it was C7, it would be a completely different carbohydrate. So you have to have 6 carbon dioxides to make glucose, which is pretty cool. All right. So cool, man. Makes me want to be a plant. All right. Be kind of a boring life, but okay. All right. Oh, hey, there's the glucose. All right. So, and if you guys want to, circle this C6 right here because that's pretty important. Okay. All right, so let's talk about reactants and products, okay? So reactants for the Calvin cycle, and I think I skipped something, I don't know. All right, what do I have to have? Remember, for reactants, look at arrows going in. What do I have to have for the Calvin cycle, okay? And the main thing that you have to have is you have to have carbon dioxide. If you want to get specific, you could have said 6, okay? So we have to have carbon dioxide, okay? That's your reactant. Now, what are my products? What do I make? I'm making 2 things, okay? The first one is oxygen, all right? So you're making oxygen, and probably the most important thing that I think that they're going to ask you on the EOC is glucose. Glucose is made in the Calvin cycle. I know I'm going to ask you that on your next test. That is a definite question. It might even be a quiz question tomorrow, okay? So oxygen and glucose, okay? Cool beans. All right, so actually what I want to show you really quick is I gave you the very simplified version of this, like the super simple version. If you want to see what really is happening, I'm going to show you. When I hit continue right here, this is actually just going to show you the light-dependent reaction, okay? And how I showed you light-dependent, again, if you guys want to flip to the front of your notes, just to remind yourself, was that sun coming in, the water going in, breaking off, all that stuff. You want to see what it really looks like? Okay, if anybody decides to study biology, you're going to know all this stuff. Here we go. Here we go. We're going into that thylakoid because that's where it's taking place.
Here you are looking.
Shut up. We don't care what he has to say. Okay? Are you ready? Holy cow. What? Okay, the little lightning bolts coming in are the sunlight energy. You see water coming in there being broken down. This is what's actually happening, okay? It looks like a video game or like something that's not even real. Oh, I love it so much, okay? But just to show you that it's way more complicated than what we just talked about, okay? All right, so I have a short video for you guys right here. Stop at 2:23, okay? 2:23. All right, here we go.
Ever wonder where most of the food you eat every day comes from? Well, about 60% of the food you eat is carbohydrates. As you can probably tell from its name, carbohydrates contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But where do these atoms originally come from, and how do they join together to make delicious foods like fruits and pasta? It actually all starts with the air you are exhaling at this very minute, specifically the carbon dioxide molecules. Plants are going to breathe in this very same carbon dioxide through pores in their skin called stomata. Plants drink in water from their roots to get the needed oxygen and hydrogen atoms and their electrons in order to build carbohydrates.
Break that apart.
What is that thing?
In the chloroplast.
Well, that's a special plant organelle inside the leaves of plants called a chloroplast. It's green because of a special light-absorbing pigment called chlorophyll. Each leaf has about 44,000 cells, and every cell can have anywhere between 20 to 100 chloroplasts.
What? 44,000 cells in one leaf. 20 to 100 chloroplast in one of those cells. Holy crap. It's crazy.
Chloroplasts. That's up to 4,400,000 chloroplasts.
What?
By now, you've probably guessed that we're talking about the process of photosynthesis, and you might be wondering when the sun is going to make its entrance. Let's go back to that original molecule of water. The plant has to split this molecule of water so that it can get electrons from it. But the plant can't pull that water apart by itself. It needs help from the high energy rays of the sun. So now that the chloroplast has all the building blocks, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and electrons, it can use them to go through the rest of the steps of photosynthesis, to transform that original carbon dioxide gas into a simple carbohydrate called glucose, C6H12O6. That little glucose molecule then helps to build bigger and better carbohydrates.
Review back to biochem, okay? C6H12O6, that's your simple sugar, your monosaccharide, okay?
Like cellulose. Cellulose is a type of carbohydrate found in plants that our body cannot break down. We call it fiber, and we eat it in vegetables like lettuce, broccoli, and celery. Plants use cellulose to keep themselves strong. The plant could also turn that glucose into starch, a large molecule that stores energy for the plant.
Polysaccharide.
We love eating starch from plants like potatoes, corn, and rice. So you see, when we eat plants, we're actually benefiting from photosynthesis. The plant makes things like starch, which we eat and then break back down.
Well, we're going to stop right there, okay? Because then it gets into other stuff, all right? So just a short little review, okay? All right, so what I want to do is I want to revisit this question right here, okay? So, question is where did most of the matter that makes up the wood and the leaves of this huge tree originally come from? Would anybody like to change their answer? And usually I'm so sad that I'm not here for this aha moment because I'm praying that there is an aha moment. There's only one thing that you should circle. One thing. Okay? Now, just to show you how hard this question is, I have one more video where it's going to show a man that goes around and asks people this question. They're from Australia, so it's, a little hard to understand them. But one more video, and then we're going to come back, okay? All right. Please, I hope somebody has the answer, and I wish I could hear it. Okay, here we go.
Trees are some of the biggest organisms on the planet. But where do they get that matter to grow?
It's nutrients out of the ground. Just out of the soil, really, yeah.
Goodness out of the soil, I suppose.
Comes out of the soil.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Why isn't there a big hole around the tree where it's taken out all the soil?
So does it say gradually that the soil has time to recover?
Now, I think it's intuitive to believe that the tree gets most of its mass from the soil, because you can see those roots digging into the soil, and they must be taking something out of there. And I mean, a tree looks like dirt, and it feels solid like dirt, but it's not. In the early 1600s, a scientist named Johann Baptist van Helmont tried to figure out where the mass of a tree was coming from. So he got a pot of soil and very carefully measured the amount of soil in there. Then he planted the tree and took care of it for 5 years, making sure that no soil left or was added to his pot. And at the end of this experiment, he weighed the tree to find that it was 72 kilograms, but the mass of soil had only decreased by about 60 grams. This was pretty strong evidence that the mass of the tree does not come from the soil.
I've never thought about that, actually, because they don't really eat anything, trees.
They don't eat anything?
No.
They don't eat anything?
Water is all they absorb.
That's all they eat?
Yeah.
They don't eat anything else?
No.
That's all they eat?
Well, presumably from the water and the nutrients from the soil.
Is there anything else that you need besides the soil and the water?
I suppose that's all you need, isn't it?
To make wood?
Other than the original seed for that particular tree, I
The
suppose.
seed and the soil and the water, and that makes this big tree.
Of course, Johann Baptist van Helmont did conclude that the tree was made entirely of water. Now, while that's not correct, at least he was on the right track, realizing that the matter of a tree doesn't come out of the soil.
The sun, energy, yeah.
The sun energy.
Yeah.
Are they converting energy into mass, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like there wasn't stuff, and then there was. Like, where did that stuff come from?
Magic. I don't know what it is.
My question is, where do they get that mass to grow big?
Sun. Get it from the rain and the sun, presumably. Light.
Sunlight.
And the sunshine.
The sunshine? Does the sunshine add mass to the tree?
Well, yes, it wouldn't. They wouldn't grow without it. I don't know whether it adds mass, but they wouldn't grow without it.
Of course, the sun's energy is needed for the tree to build the matter into its branches and leaves. But the sun itself, the energy, is not matter.
Well, I suppose we've got to put air into this as well.
Yeah.
There's got to be something out of the,
What is it about the air?
a gas in the air that it needs as well.
Oxygen.
The trees need the oxygen.
Yeah, need the oxygen, don't they?
And I guess oxygen.
The oxygen, of course.
The oxygen? Are there
Maybe the
any
trees.
ingredients that we're missing?
Air.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
So would it surprise you to find out that 95% of a tree is actually
Carbon dioxide.
from carbon dioxide? Trees are
much,
largely
yeah.
made up of air.
Surprising. Yeah.
Yeah,
that is surprising.
I need this reaction like, oh,
Holy shit.
Oops, sorry.
So as it turns out, trees are mostly made out of air, out of the carbon dioxide that they take in. And what's interesting is that we breathe out carbon dioxide and water. That's how we lose mass. But it's the exact same substances that trees breathe in to gain mass. So if you can imagine a closed system where it was just you and a tree, you would breathe out that carbon dioxide and water, the tree would take it in, so you would get smaller while the tree is getting bigger. And in a sense, you're becoming the tree.
Crazy, crazy. Okay. So hop back here. What is the answer? Where did the most of the matter that makes up the wood and the leaves originally come from? Came from carbon dioxide. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Pretty cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Now, I have this terrible song right here. I don't know if I'm not going to play it because it's pretty bad. If you guys are dying to hear it, you can download this and play it. It's pretty cheesy, so normally my kids hate me for playing it for them. Oh, what the heck? What the heck? I'm going to torture you guys. It's pretty bad. Uh-oh.
If you want to
I know
know
words to this.
how a plant grows, it takes water, air, and sunlight, and makes cellulose. Every plant can do this fundamental process, and we can call this photosynthesis. Unlike me and you, plants need CO2, and they make oxygen that stops us turning blue. Every plant can do this fundamental process, and we can call this photosynthesis. It's a miracle how all the chlorophyll captures sunlight in the leaves of the plants and the trees. A plant of any size can do it if it tries, but we're not green, so we can't photosynthesize.
All right, I'll stop right there. Yes, I know every single word to that. It just keeps repeating itself. It's cheesy, but you know what, guys? It has some pretty good stuff. Okay? Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay, so what I'm going to get Ms. Hartsock to do, if you don't mind, is I want to explain the plant diagram because it's kind of weird. So Ms. Hartsock, if you can hit pause on this and then pass out the plant diagram activity, okay? And then I'm going to explain what they're going to need to do, okay? Thank you. All right, so you guys are actually going to make, oh, where did it go? You guys have this sheet of paper right here, okay? It's very self-explanatory what you need to do. You're actually going to make a diagram, all right? So you also need a white piece of paper. Ms. Hartsock, I forgot to put that on the little plans that I gave you. So they're going to need a white piece of paper as well, okay? So at the top of the paper, you're going to write the summative formula. I don't care if you use words or formula. It's up to you, okay? In the middle of the paper, what you guys are going to do is you're going to draw a large plant, okay? And I'm actually reading this with you. So you're going to draw a large plant in the middle of the paper. You need to make sure that you include the basic components. So I need roots, trunks, and leaves, okay? Because obviously we're going with that. All right, now I know how some of you guys just don't want to draw a plant. You like using your computers for it, which I'm okay with that, okay? So let's just, what I would do is I would go to Google and I would say clip art plant, okay? Now part of the reason why I did clip art is because if you guys just type in plant, you're going to get real plants and it's kind of hard to copy. But right here, look, you got all of these. Here's some black and white ones that you guys can do. Pick any plant that you'd like. Obviously, don't pick a stupid plant, okay? Pick one that is legal, all right? Flowers a little bit trickier. If you guys do flowers, make sure that you guys don't have anything happening with the petals. You can do clip art tree, okay? And then you can pick some things that you like, okay? So you're going to draw that big old thing right in the middle of your paper, okay? I'm asking you to do a zoom window, all right, for a chloroplast, so exactly what you see right here. You're going to zoom out, draw another chloroplast, make sure that you label all these components that I asked for, okay? Now, right down here, 4 and 5, what you guys are going to do is that you're going to add what you have in your notes to your diagram, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to add the light-dependent reaction. So that was that first tree that you had with the sunlight coming in. Obviously, you got to add a sun, the water going in, and the H's and O's and the O2 leaving. So you're going to draw that in your diagram, okay? Make that work there, okay? Now, the second part that's going to be tricky is, notice I say make sure to label, and labeling is putting in like the O2 going in, being broken apart, all right, and explain what is occurring, okay? Now, when you guys are explaining what's happening, it's going to be very easy for you to copy your notes, okay? As a matter of fact, I bet a lot of you guys would do that because it requires no thought. But when you're explaining, I want you to put it in your own words, okay? So what you have in your notes, you put it into, imagine that you're explaining it to your friends or teaching the light-dependent reaction to your friends. How would you explain it? You wouldn't pick your notes up and read it, okay? That's pretty lame. All right, and trust me, guys, I made this PowerPoint, so I know my own words. Those are my words. So I'll know if you're wussing out, and you're going to lose points on that. Okay. The second one is you're going to add the Calvin cycle to your tree. All right. So once you do the light dependent, just show all those carbons coming in on the same diagram. I could have actually put all that on that same diagram, but I didn't. I wanted to separate it for you guys. Okay, so you're going to show all the carbons coming in, carbon dioxide coming in, the carbons trapped, the O2's leaving, and make sure that you show me glucose in there, okay? You do need to have a little bit of color. Don't get crazy about it, okay? But I do want some color going on with that. This down here, this check is just for you to make sure that you did what I asked for, okay? And the grade is for me. Now, I have some kids get super caught up in drawing, okay? Don't do that. I've had kids bomb this because they spend all their time just on the plants, okay? And I don't want you guys to do that, all right? I need to check on one thing. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I can't remember what I said to do, okay? Actually, I want this diagram done for homework, okay? And if it gets to the point where you can't use color, that's okay, all right? You're going to take it home, and you're going to finish it, and you're actually going to turn it in, okay? So it's not going to be a spot check. You're actually going to see what's going on with it, okay? Wait, yes. Oh, I do have the study guide completed. Finish that for homework, okay? Don't worry about this. What do I want you to do for homework? I don't remember what I wanted you to do for homework. Miss Hartsock, hopefully you just, here we go. Miss Hartsock, go for what I said for them to do for homework on the plans that I gave you, okay? I can't remember. I'm not getting any sleep. If I did say do the study guide, I'll announce a due date for the diagram, okay? I'll go check that one here in a second, all right? Sorry for spacing it on you guys at the very end, all right? So work hard, keep working hard. I hear you guys are doing all right. Keep doing all right. Please be respectful. Sit in the seats that I gave you the first day. Ms. Hartsock has a seating chart. I'm a little disappointed that if you guys did move, that's not cool. And just remember the expectations that I set, because that's what I expect, okay? I miss you guys. Hope all is well. All is well here. Got a beautiful baby hanging out with me. Everything's good, okay? So you guys take care, all right? I'll have another video for you tomorrow, all right? Bye.